It's Michael Kane, K-A-N-E. This is Gordon Leedy.
My name's Gordon Leedy, L-E-E-D-Y.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Michael Kane from the Kane Company, and we are the prospective purchaser of the Seabrook Greyhound racetrack. And our proposal is to convert it from a racetrack into an industrial corporate park. And we think we can build approximately 650,000 square feet of space out there. We're here with our first occupant today. We'd like to talk to you about them. But I'd like to turn this over to Gordon, who raced so fast over here. I was glad that the chief of police was sitting here.
Yeah. I was too, actually.
So that Gordon didn't get in trouble trying to get over here. And,
Excuse me,
yes.
Mama. Can you hear him back there?
Can you hear me?
They can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm turning it over to Gordon now. So I'm introducing Gordon Leedy with VHB. He is our engineer, and he'll explain the process that we've gone through to date.
Thanks very much, Michael. Again, my name is Gordon Leedy. I'm a landscape architect and planner with VHB in Bedford, and we're representing the Kane Company in the design and planning of the property. We wanted to come today and sort of discuss what the general plans are for redeveloping the property. As you may know, the property is the largest available redevelopment parcel in your industrial zone, so it's a very important piece of property for the town. And our proposal will bring an increased tax base and clean industry to Seabrook if we are successful. We've been working for about the last 6 months to identify potential businesses that may want to locate here. We've also been working with the planning board and town staff in addressing regulations and zoning that will allow redevelopment of the property while protecting the groundwater resources of the town. As you may know, there was a lot of discussion which we were happy to be involved with the recent adoption of aquifer protection zoning and regulations that affect this property. I want to say that the town and the planning board have been very receptive to the proposed redevelopment and have been open to considering our comments and concerns with regard to regulation and the recently adopted aquifer protection overlay district. When the zoning was posted at the for vote at the town meeting, posted for the warrant, there was critical language which we had discussed with the planning board that was inadvertently omitted from the zoning amendment. Now, how this happened, we don't know, but it doesn't really matter at this point because the regulations have taken, or the ordinance has taken effect, and we have some issues with that which we'll go through today. The language that was omitted was language that the planning board had voted to include after a lot of discussion, and as a result, the ordinance that was adopted by the voters has the unintended consequence of prohibiting virtually all of the industrial uses that are otherwise permitted in the district. Because it limited the use of regulated substances to quantities less than 5 gallons. Now, regulated substances are things as common as table salt, and lawn fertilizer, inks, adhesives, lubricating oil for machinery. There are probably 1,500 or 2,000 regulated substances, and they're very commonly used, as you can imagine, in industrial processes. But there are also materials which have associated regulations at the state, federal, and also at the local level for use, storage, and disposal. So it's anything that has a drinking water standard or could otherwise be an issue. The prohibition on storage and handling of these materials in quantities was limited to 5 gallons, and that effectively prohibits all industrial uses, because all industrial uses have some of these materials on hand at any given moment. So we've been working to achieve a solution to this issue, and we presented a variance application to the zoning board to address the specific issue, or the issue on this specific property in a timely manner, while allowing the town to revisit the whole issue of ordinance provisions in its normal time frame. We have a premier occupant for the property, which will not wait for 2016. When we presented, we assumed the zoning board was aware of the issue, so what we thought made perfect sense, in fact, made no sense at all to the board, to the ZBA. Since then, we've worked diligently with professionals in the industry and with staff of the town of Seabrook to develop a solution which will allow use of the property while imposing the intended water, groundwater and water resource protection. Our proposal is to present, or is to request, a conditional variance to the current zoning that would allow additional oversight by the planning board to adopt further regulation and control specific to any kind of development that would take place on the property. This process would allow the approval of clean industry to come into Seabrook, while at the same time would require specific development plans which would provide safeguards needed for the town's drinking water. I brought a conceptual master plan, which I can hand out to you all.
Oh.
And as you can see,
Take one more.
oh, okay. This plan has, is simply conceptual. We do have the first user who is working on preparing plans for specific development, but this plan shows 650,000 square feet of light manufacturing and warehouse distribution space in 4 buildings. Now, at the end of the day, it could be a few more buildings than that. It could be, if we find one larger user, it could be less, but this is where we think we're going at this point. As I said, only the first building has gone beyond the concept phase, but our hope is that the entire property could be developed over the next several years. We're finding that there's great interest in locating here in Seabrook, and that there's potential for locating several hundred new jobs here. So at this point, I would like to introduce Nick Smith, who's president of Rand Whitney Corporation. And Rand Whitney is our first potential new business in the Seabrook Corporate Park. Rand Whitney is emblematic of the type of industry we would hope to attract. Rand Whitney is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kraft Group and one of the largest manufacturers of corrugated and cardboard containers in the world. I have no doubt some of their boxes arrive frequently at your doorsteps via Amazon or FedEx. And here's a plan for their building that is 107,000 square feet of light industrial manufacturing, a facility that we hope we'll be bringing to the planning board for site plan approval as soon as we can. I'll let Nick explain what his company plans to do in this facility and why they want to be Seabrook's newest corporate citizen.
Thank you. My name is Nick Smith, and I appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you this morning. I was going to start off just briefly describing a bit about Rand Whitney and the ownership structure, and then go into a little bit more detail about the process. I've been with the company 16 years. I'm currently the president and CEO of Rand Whitney Container, and we're part of a larger privately held company that's called the Kraft Group. So our ownership is, it's a closely held board. It's Robert Kraft and the 4 boys. And they really have 4 segments of business, and I'm running one of the companies within one of those segments. So the 4 segments are sports and entertainment, which is the New England Patriots and the Revolution. There's a fairly large real estate entity, and some of the senior managers from that entity are going to be working with us to help manage this project. There's a private equity and investing arm. And then the longest tenured segment of the craft group is actually paper and packaging. So we were founded in 1938, and it really consists of it's paper mills. We own 3 paper mills. The company I run is called Rand Whitney Container, and I'll explain that a bit more, but it's box plants, so it's more the converting operations. One of our sister companies was founded in 1972, and they are about the 25th largest exporter in the country of any public or private company, and that's called International Forest Products. So they've got offices or agents in about 85 countries. And then we have a fairly large sister company called Rand Whitney Recycling. So there's a very heavy emphasis on the recycling and the sustainability aspect of our business. Rand Whitney Container, the company I run, it consists of 12 facilities, primarily in the Northeast, 1 facility in the Southeast, and then 1 facility in Ireland. We've recently acquired another fairly large company in the Southeast. That's a separate name. It's essentially called Carolina Container. So in the Northeast are these 12 facilities. They're box plants, so what we would call box plants. So the way the process works is you have paper mills. Our paper mill, one of our larger mills, is in Montville, Connecticut. It's 100% recycled paper. So they take old corrugated boxes, water, and essentially make new paper. It's called linerboard. So it's either medium or linerboard. So when a box is made, a brown box, you've got an outside liner and an inside liner, and the middle part is called medium. So we're buying paper from our paper mills. That goes to an operation that's actually called a sheet feeder. So the paper is combined, and you get a very large sheet. So for the operation here in the Northeast, we call this, or in New Hampshire, it's called a sheet plant. So we initially moved here in 1972 to Dover. So we had about a 60,000 square foot operation in 1972, and the majority of the business was furniture business. So Ethan Allen was our largest customer. So it was plastics, it was really heavy furniture. So that plant would get large sheets of corrugated paper in some cases the size of this table, and really all they're doing is printing on it, and it's water-soluble inks, and then you're folding it, and then there's glue adhesive, and then you're gluing the box together. So really everybody in the room here has seen the final product, which is a corrugated box. So for the operation here, the input is large sheets of paper that come in, and then you're forming boxes. And the box can be as large as something that would encapsulate a piece of furniture. This particular plant, a lot of its business over the years has been the larger boxes. For us, the market has changed. There's no furniture customers anymore. So we moved, we were expanding. We really pushed into fulfillment for high-end displays. We'd manufacture, so we bought a 200,000 square foot facility in Rochester 10 years ago. So that was going to be the growth for this operation, was going to be running that sheet plant in Rochester. We were approached by a company called Albany Engineering about 10 years ago as well, and we subleased about 100,000 square feet to them, and then they really gave us an offer we couldn't refuse about 6-7 years ago, and asked to lease the whole building. At that point, we moved into, it was a sublease, so we own all our facilities except for the building we're currently subleasing in the Pease development today. So about 5-6 years ago, we moved from Rochester to Portsmouth, and 2 years ago, we started the search for a long-term home. Part of that process was evaluating, are we even going to keep this operation in New Hampshire? We've got multiple facilities in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and our largest footprint of plants is actually in Massachusetts, but we've made the decision. Our mix of business has changed. About 50% of the business goes up into the New Hampshire main corridor still. The other component of the business is a little bit further south into Massachusetts, but the workforce we have there is phenomenal. It's about 45 employees. Many of them started in that kind of Rochester. They're further up, so they've got a fair commute. But we made the decision that we weren't going to start from scratch when it came to the workforce, and we view this as being a great strategic location. So we spent 2 years looking for an existing building. The priority out of the gate was not going to be to build a greenfield plant, and because of the lack of availability of existing plants, we've made the decision. This process probably started 8-9 months ago to put this 105,000 square foot facility here. What this is going to allow us to do is we're at about 70,000 square feet today, so we're already looking at buying incremental equipment and really moving and growing this division. We've been constrained by the equipment and the current footprint in 70,000 square feet. And this is really a custom building that's going to allow us to continue to grow and expand moving forward. So what this facility will consist of, it's really 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 pieces of converting equipment. So the sheets come in, you're taking the sheets on fairly large pieces of equipment, you're printing on them, and then you're folding it and gluing, and then it's a finished product that you're shipping out. So I would definitely view it as extremely light manufacturing. If you view a paper mill, at the other end of the spectrum, I would obviously call that heavy manufacturing. I would view this, just above light assembly. There is some equipment, but really our GM here, Rick Dumais, for the operation, I asked him a few minutes ago, they probably use 100 to 200 gallons a day of processed water. Other than that, all you've got is electricity, compressed air, some processed water just for washing the water-soluble inks, and that's it. And then you've got forklifts, but you do have some equipment that has hydraulic oil. So when this initially surfaced, we would not be able to move to this location with the current restriction. And I think the challenge we're all facing is time is not on our side. We'd hoped to have shovels in the ground already. We're trying to have the entire building encapsulated by winter, so we aren't building through the winter. And that way we can start, finish the building, get the occupancy permit, and bring a lot of the equipment in. So we're running out of runway very, very quickly. So I think for us today, our ownership is committed. We've evaluated a lot of options in 5 years, and we're committed to having an operation and a business in New Hampshire. There's about a 20-mile radius from our workforce that we've looked at, and we've ended up at this location, which we view as a spectacular location. We've got a long-term relationship with the Kane company, Procon, who is going to be the design build firm. We've got a long-term relationship with Procon. So really, all the pieces are in place, and we're ready to launch forward. So I'm going to be the oversight is from a business perspective for Rand Whitney, working with their team. We're going to have our real estate expertise from the stadium, playing their role, and we are really trying to shoot for probably a 6, 7, 8 month construction window here. And we finally have great weather and just ready to get rolling. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Nick. And just in conclusion, as we said, we're working with the town to try to find our way through the zoning issues. But we just wanted to come to you and explain what our plans were and our hope to bring jobs and tax base and clean industry to Seabrook. And our hope is that we can bring responsible industrial users to Seabrook to grow both the jobs and the tax base.
I think just including, I would just again emphasize that I think Nick's company is the type of industry that we're trying to attract. You can imagine if we were trying to attract a company and said you have to go through a zoning variance every time you want to locate here, I think that would fall right off their radar screens immediately. Well, I think what we are asking for, the additional oversight from the planning board, is a very responsible and easy way for the town to work out or not work out a program for a company like Nick to come in and say, this is how we anticipate handling our hydraulic oil and whatever else they have. And the planning board either gives them a thumbs up or a thumbs down in their estimation. So thank you for your time today. I hope that we've been clear. We're certainly available to answer any questions. We also have Michael Bergeron, who wanted to say a few words from the State of New Hampshire Department of Economic Resources and Development.
Okay, questions and or
Yeah,
comments?
Mr. Smith, as you know, that I represent this board to the planning board, and the planning board discussed this aquifer protection regulations, which was on our ballot on March, extensively for October, November, December, and then even before that. And many members of the planning board worked very hard on it to protect our water source for future. But it is true that in the process, we made some mistakes. Don't want to say mistake, but we did not put some of the items that needed to put in there, so the property owners does not get penalized for the whole thing. So this case is in the zoning board's hand. Zoning board works in their own way. We don't want to touch their decision or make any comment about that. It has to go through the process. But this board can support the planning board's position that the planning board took, that if zoning board allows, the planning board will do extensive oversight for the future of this project, because the town government already involved in this project for many months now. And we all agreed that this is a good project for the town of Seabrook, considering the services we have to provide for the future for our town agencies. This project is good for the Seabrook taxpayers. So it'll be fruitful that if we support the planning board's position going forward. That's my comment.
Teresa?
I have a couple of questions. I'm going to be like the little devil here.
That's all right.
Because our water is very important to the town of Seabrook.
Absolutely.
And let me preface my statements by, your company is very, very nice and would certainly be welcomed. I did a lot of research on Rand Whitney. So I have a couple of questions, and one of my questions would be, do you agree that you will voluntarily abide by the conditions set forth by the zoning board, if they do impose any, and to allow additional revenue if called for site development beyond Rand Whitney? For instance, you have other businesses that may come in, maybe they will need additional site development. Are you prepared to do that, willing to do that, and willing to abide by our planning board and our zoning board?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, go ahead.
And I would just say that, there's a great old expression that sunlight is the ultimate antiseptic. And we think that, the more open this is and the more transparent it is to everyone, the better off we all are, because no one wants anything bad to happen to the aquifer, but people, we want to bring in good jobs. So we think an open process is terrific, and we do accept that condition.
All right. And my second question, again, because of the water supply, are you prepared to take additional steps to ensure that any matter which may arise detrimental to the aquifer, you will be contained within your structure for redundant containment, so to speak?
Yeah.
And that's going to cost you money, not the town. And are you willing to do that?
Yes, and I would say additionally that I think that that's a really important point that you make, because we are putting any approvals in the hands of the planning board to specify any and all, belts, suspenders, redundant systems, whatever they feel they need to do to make sure, or to say, it doesn't matter what you do, this product's too weird, we can't have it here, okay?
Right.
But anything, we encourage the planning board to put whatever sort of standards they feel they need to do to protect the aquifer, and we'll abide by them 100%.
And just to add to that, you may or may not be aware that the planning board, as a part of the recent regulation modification that they did, adopted standards for what's called an SPCC plan, which is a spill prevention, containment and countermeasures plan. And so part of the variance that we're applying for is simply to allow the planning board to review and approve, modify, or deny an SPCC plan, and nothing on this property will take place without an SPCC plan being approved by both the fire department and the planning board. So we think we have achieved what the overall purpose of the regulation is, which is to protect the groundwater. We have allowed for individual review of individual development proposals as they come forward, and we've explicitly allowed for language that would allow the planning board to deny So if, as Michael indicated, if the planning board, in their judgment, decides that there isn't a plan that could adequately protect the groundwater resources of the town from X substance, whatever it might be, then they're free to say, no, we won't allow this.
I think it's important also to add that one of the concepts that we have in mind is about 100,000 feet, which would serve as a mixed-use building. So in other words, we've gotten a tremendous amount of interest from businesses that are in 10,000 feet that they want to be in 15,000 feet, or want to move to 20,000 feet, in those size increments. And those businesses could change over the years when you have a building like that. You have a box company today, and you might have a paper supply company tomorrow, or something like that. And there's got to be a process where we can go in. It's not just a new building. We can go into the planning board and say, we intend to fill this building with, I don't know, a food distributor or someone like that, and the process starts all over, and they either approve it or they don't approve it.
And that was my purpose of redundant containment.
Yes.
We don't know what's coming over there. We want to be prepared, and we want you to be prepared financially also
Yep.
to be able to adjust for that.
Yeah.
Well, and every user will ultimately need to get an SPCC plan approved for their specific use of the property, so.
And if we have to modify the building, then we have to modify the building,
And how would we go about expediting anything where this was voted on by the town, the zoning?
I don't want to speak for the applicant, but the applicant has filed for a rehearing before the zoning board. And the zoning board, I think, would have additional information that they did not have at their first hearing, and at least be in a better position to understand what the goal is, to understand some of the conditions that are acceptable to the developer, and certainly have substantially more good information on which to make the judgment. And I think it'll be a better application and hopefully a better outcome.
Would you have another comment?
Yes, Mr. Smith, I don't want to call Mr. Smith. We already have Mr. Smith, Mr. Nichols. Can you tell our residents, especially the butters and the neighbors where your project is, you are proposing, that the chemical and the product you're going to use in your facility is not harmful to them?
Okay.
And this is your opportunity to those neighbors, because there's a lot of concern from the neighbors that what product, and this is your opportunity you can take,
Okay. No, so really, as we look at, and we've done other similar projects before, there's kind of three impacts that folks are normally concerned about. One is the traffic. When you got a high volume DC, it could be hundreds and hundreds of truckloads. We're probably looking at 5, 6, 7, trucks a day coming in, going out. From a traffic perspective, there's really nothing daunting going on from a noise perspective. The equipment is inside. It's relatively small by, call it, heavy industry standards. And literally, the way the process works, you have trailers of stacked sheets coming in that are in some cases half the size of this table, in some cases larger than this table.
What about the chemicals and those?
Well, so the sheets come in, so it's already a combined sheet. So really, all that happens, it goes to the infeed of a machine, and you're printing, so it's water-soluble inks. So we're doing this. I mean, there's probably thousands of these operations around the country. They're water-soluble inks today, depending on the town. The vast majority of the time, it's water-soluble. It gets mixed with the water, and it just goes into the stream to the water treatment. That's the norm. So it's inks that are printed. It's blue. It's black. It's different inks that are printed on the box. At that point, you die cut. So it's a cutting die. You cut shapes out of the box in order to make it fit the shape, and then you fold it. So at that point, it's glue. So it doesn't look much different than Elmer's glue. It's glue that's put on what's called a glue tab, and then you form the box. So the operation is done, and then it's stacked. And then you have 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks of the sheets coming in, and you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks going out. So that's the vast extent, or the entire extent of the process. You do have equipment, so you do have a few pieces of equipment that have hydraulic reservoirs for oil. You've got forklifts that are either propane or battery powered. But beyond that's really the extent of the operation. So you've got about 40, 45 employees. We are gonna be adding some other equipment, but it's just other versions of kind of box-making equipment that allow you to make either smaller lot sizes or slightly different shapes. But all you're doing, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, is you're bringing boxes in, you're printing, die cutting, it's called die cutting, and folding it, and then the process is complete. So that's it.
All the towns you are doing business right now, do you have any issue with those town, or the EPA?
No, absolutely
regarding
not.
this material or this business?
When we do look at, we were gonna put a massive facility, a 450,000 square foot facility in Boylston, Massachusetts, that we still have the land for. But the on-site fueling is one that nobody's excited about that. If you've got to do that, you've got to do massive containment and everything else. So we made the decision years ago that we have relationships with other companies, and they handle the fueling aspect. So really, the trucks come on site, they drop the trailers, you unload it, and then you've got this process.
So
there's
let me
nothing more
try
than that.
again. Do you have any existing issue with any of the towns your business is conducting right now?
No, absolutely, other than they all want us to grow. We're looking at a massive expansion in Newtown, Connecticut. I mean, for us, it's very light manufacturing. Some of our operations are called box plants, where we actually have a boiler. So the sheets are coming in here already done. Some of the operations we have are larger because you're getting rolls of paper, and you've got to have a boiler for steam, and you've got a larger piece of equipment that actually takes those rolls of paper and makes the combined sheet. So that's a little bit, because of a boiler, there's other permitting issues as far as the boiler-related permits, but here, there's not even a boiler. So we have absolutely no issues, and we've never had any issues.
And just to add a little bit to that, all of these operations are happening interior to a building. And so there's no floor drains,
We're in a warehouse today.
there's no way for those materials to escape, if you will. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need a plan, because,
So your containment facilities are contained within a structure.
correct.
And if you have to have redundant containment, you're going to have sufficient spots within a structure
Correct.
to,
Right. And even
have
when it
those.
comes down to how Rand Whitney handles their hydraulic oil or their propane, they're gonna have to go to the planning board and say, this is how we propose to get it in and get it out. And that's up to the planning board to, hire an expert to, if they need to question anything and approve a plan that these guys adhere to. So, I don't, yeah.
I know it's internal, I think I know the answer to the question, but does the process create any noise? That would
The
emanate-
equipment inside can be noisy, but we've got internal offices that literally are 15 feet away, 15, 20 feet away, and you'll have, insulated walls, but
Right.
you're literally 15 feet from the office, or from the equipment that's operating. So it's equipment that's moving and it's folding, but it's inside the building. Some of our other operations can be a little more noisy, and I think that the massive truck traffic 24 hours a day, which this facility doesn't have, can be a higher impact. So I don't know that the DBA, but from an OSHA perspective, there's other requirements that we have to conform to that control a lot of that internal noise.
Bill, the only thing I would say is, we've had meetings literally in their conference room, right up against all the
While the
machinery.
machinery was running.
And
Yeah.
it was like this meeting right here.
Okay.
So the building does a pretty good job of keeping the sound inside.
Mr. Chairman, would it be possible to bring Mr. Bergeron up just for a couple of words?
I have no problem with Mr. Bergeron, I just had a couple of questions I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah,
ask
no,
myself.
it's-
I
yeah,
was just
yeah.
waiting my time.
Waiting your turn, yeah, okay.
If I'm going to explain to the taxpayers of Seabrook,
Mhm.
what would be your three most important benefits that you were going to bring to Seabrook? And the reason I say three, one, it's an odd number, and two, you get three chances to hit the right button.
Yep.
That would tell somebody in Seabrook this is a good thing.
Well, the first two, I've got to think about the third for a second, but the first two are jobs and expanded tax base. And I think that, it's an underutilized property. I think that what we plan to do, everything we've done has been attractive. I think you'll find that we've hired the best in terms of engineers.
Thank you,
We don't know 'em.
And you know, we anticipate that this will be something that people can drive by and say that's world-class.
And I'll say one of the pieces, the corporate citizen piece. It's a privately held company. I've been with the company 16 years. You know, I'm involved in all aspects. For us, it's more than a job. It's a big decision for us. But what we are not is a massive, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we're built differently than a $100 billion company where it's just another business deal. For us, it's a big decision to stay in New Hampshire. The workforce is a major piece of this, the town of Seabrook. So our goal is going to be to get involved in the community and to really, you know, essentially help become the fabric of a community moving forward. So that, I think, is a big piece of it. And our vendors, we've, you know, every aspect. I mean, we buy new tractors every 4 or 5 years. We're buying new tractors. We buy new forklifts. This is a new building. There aren't many companies in our industry making the investments that we're making. We're going to make it substantial. In Worcester, Massachusetts, we're buying another building next door to us, 140,000 square feet. In the next 30 days, 2 of the companies have gone bankrupt in the last 5 years. That company's gone. We're buying that building. We're meeting engineers this afternoon to make fairly large investments. We just bought that other company in the southeast about 2-3 months ago that had 12 plants and a few $100 million in sales. So we're fairly unique that at this point in time we're investing in the industry, and so I think that corporate citizenship, and I think, you know, Michael you know, said it well, that we view ourselves as being a pretty good long-term tenant for the town, and I think that's a big piece of it.
I've got my number 3. Statistically, every manufacturing job creates 7 other jobs in a community. Now, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden this is going to create 7 new jobs for every employee, but on statistics, so it will create other jobs. There's a ripple effect to industrial manufacturing growth in a community, and I don't think that can be overlooked.
Brian, thank you very much.
And obviously, you'll be hiring a lot of Seabrook people. Are you going to be bringing in your own?
Look at him.
That's him? That's all that's coming?
No, I mean, so a little bit like if you say, I want to build an apartment building, and they say, well, tell me about all of your 100 residents or your 50 residents. You don't know, because you say, well, we're going to build, you know, 50 apartments and we hope to get great tenants, okay? And this is the type of median income we're shooting for, et cetera. Well, very much like that. We have been talking to other people. We have a long-term relationship with Rand Whitney. We've done great things together, and they're our lead company. We do not have, you know, we're talking to a bunch of other companies, and that's what we do, but we can't tell you who they are yet because we don't have them. But what we're doing is we're investing in the infrastructure to allow them to come and attract them to come. And, you know, when they drive in that front entrance and they see the Rand Whitney building, which is going to be beautiful, and the 2014 Super Bowl championship flag, which will be right above the building, you know, we hope that'll inspire companies to come and locate in Seabrook. And I have to tell you, we've had a tremendous amount of interest, not just from the big companies, but from some of the small businesses, which I think are great growth for a town. You know, the 15,000, 20,000 square foot companies who need a place to expand, who aren't going to go out and build their own building because they don't want to. They want to roll the money back into their business, not into real estate.
So getting back to my question,
Yes.
you're going to hire a multitude of Seabrook people to work there?
Well, I think over time it's the attrition. There will be attrition. I think we view it as being a great place to work. So I would imagine over time, 10, 15, 20, if you look at the entire site, you know, there could be 4, 5, 6, 700 jobs there. For us, I think it's very well-paying jobs with great benefits. So we view our company as a great place to work. I mean, the mere fact, in some cases, folks could be commuting an hour down from above Rochester. But over time, you've got the attrition, and we're going to continue to invest. So 105,000 square feet gives us a lot of opportunity to continue to add jobs, absolutely.
You wish to have?
Mr. Bergeron is here from the state of New Hampshire.
Thank you. My name is Michael Bergeron. I work for the New Hampshire Department of Resources and Economic Development. So I'll be very quick because I know it's getting almost near noon time. I think the town of Seabrook did a wonderful job working with U.S. Foods. And if you think really one of the #1 issues really for the citizens is protecting the water here, because everything is an aquifer and it's really very sensitive. So I think if the town follows the wonderful model that you did with US Foods, and then apply an ability to be more flexible in terms of timing with Rand Whitney, I don't think there'll be any issues or problems, because what you did with on Ledge Road with US Foods was excellent. The ability to be flexible, yet to make sure that the best technology was used to protect the water. That same model can be used with my Kane's project, but also keep in mind that to keep Rand Whitney from going to Massachusetts, which is one of my issues, is to make sure you can find some creative way to keep them somewhat on track, at the same time following that wonderful model that you've already set up. So that's really my key message, is that continue what you're doing, try to help Rick and his team to meet the time frame they have, and to use that as, from my standpoint anyway, having a lead tenant, as Mike said, helps his business, but it helps the state of New Hampshire to be able to say, look what this town of Seabrook did. They were able to come up with a solution to a problem, and they were able to do it in a timely manner, as opposed to the deal dies, nothing happens, and then I find a prospect, I come to Mike or one of his brokers, and I say, this would be a great place to go, and they read the newspaper and say, well, this was shot down. It gives the image of, well, I don't know, can you come here, can you meet time frames, so forth. So it helps everyone protect the water, find the timing, and then set the stage for future growth that will be job growth within that particular park. Thank you.
Would you
Yeah.
mind just talking for a minute or two to the board about the program?
Oh, yes, yeah. I also contacted Bill about an economic revitalization zone. That is a tax credit program that was set up probably 8 years ago by the state legislature. So every town or city has the opportunity to create geographic zones that allow tax credit for companies that locate within that zone. So town of Seabrook can create a zone of vacant space, vacant buildings. Then any company that moves in there, builds a new building or leases space within an existing building, can receive a tax credit if, number one, they add new jobs, and number two, they add capital investment, that is new tenant improvements or other value that adds to the business within that zone within the calendar year. Costs the town nothing, but provides competitive edge with other towns and also other states. So by having it at this particular project, it will help attract companies to this site, create new jobs, and it does not impact the taxpayers at all.
Okay, so if I understand you too, under that program, what is it, the ERZ
Yeah.
zone
Yes.
program? We're going to establish the racetrack area under that program, and they will get tax benefits, pay out in 6 years, a certain amount of money, but it's good for them, it's good for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're bringing a new industry, revitalizing a zone, and jobs.
It also encourages the company to hire, because if they don't hire any new employees, moving 45 people from, say, Portsmouth to Seabrook is not new employees. So they have to hire new employees. The more they pay them, the bigger the tax credit. The more they invest in the building themselves, the higher the tax credit. And it can be up to $240,000 tax credit applied against the corporate income tax.
Okay, so it's a win-win
Yes,
situation.
absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have to vote to adopt that as a zone.
So I have the form, and I knew that Michael was gonna be here today, and I'll, with your permission, with the board's permission, begin the paperwork process, but only if the board authorizes me to move forward. So I recommend it. I think that it's a good program, as Michael's outlined, and I think it will help us on this site and be productive for the town of Seabrook.
Cool, any questions or comments on doing that?
Mr. Smith, because this is, Seabrook didn't do this kind of concept yet, let's study this. It is, I have no doubt it is a good thing, but let's study is, what is good, minus and plus, and near the next meeting, we can make a decision.
Teresa?
No comment. I agree.
Okay.
I agree with what the town manager is suggesting.
That would come in after you're coming in if you get approval. Because you mentioned time, and now Bull's talking the 30 days before we look at the tax incentive. But it still wouldn't affect you time-wise doing that, would it?
You'd have to ask Michael. I don't know at what point the trigger on the ERZ thing works.
That really wouldn't affect. The key issue is getting Rand Whitney to have approvals of construction, because once the ERZ is approved here at the town, it only takes us like 4 or 5 weeks to approve at DRED. And we have between now and the next February for the taxpayer to apply. So really, the ERZ is a minor issue.
Okay, I just didn't wanna get into time conflicts.
And just as a side note, you already have one off of Stard Road. You already have one zone set up there as well.
Any other questions, Bill?
No question, Mr. Smith, but my request will be that this board support the project, so, and support the planning board's effort to going forward. So this will bring this project a little bit ahead of the, you know.
Teresa?
I concur with the bull.
I basically concur also. My feelings are, if you dot your i's and cross your t's and do everything according to the way it should be done, it could lead to a very working partnership with the town of Seabrook. Gentlemen, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With that being said, I would like to
Take a break.
declare a 5-minute recess, so we can do what we need to do.
I second.